Hey, this is Joel Oney at J Money in the heart of the Buckeye State, and I want to personally welcome you to today's episode of the Steel Kings podcast with my good friends Jared Ledford and Eric Olson, better known as the Steel Kings. Be sure to check out jmoneyllc.com for financing solutions for your buildings. And now let's get back to the Steel Kings podcast.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Jared with the Steel Kings podcast, back at you for another episode of the podcast. Checking in today without Eric. He is out on assignment, but I am here and ready to hang out for a bit with you guys. I hope you are having a great day. It is Wednesday, July the 23rd here. You guys are going to get this probably in a couple of weeks. So in the meantime, check us out on the social media channels. Check us out on the website. I wanted to talk a little bit about this guy we're going to be bringing in. You guys are really familiar with Shannon. He is the Shed Geek. He is the host of the Shed Geek podcast. That is every Wednesday. Check out your local podcast network. But I am going to bring Shannon into the studio with me now. Shannon, what's up, dude? How are you, man?
What's going on, buddy? It's good to talk to you and catch up and just get on here and talk industry business with you a little bit.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we talk on a regular basis. I think we had you on maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that. And we want to check in with you because you are the podfather of the Shed Geek podcast network. We refer to you that way on the show fairly often. We wouldn't have the show without you. So obviously we've got to give you some studio time with the Steel Kings. And with Eric being Eric just got back from Belize. He's doing another mission, some sort of mission trip or something, going into this week. So we'll see him back here probably next week on the podcast. But
by the way, I had my wife bring me this.
There you go, man.
I was too late. I was too late. I was trying to get it before we started.
That's all right, man. I gotta get me some black frame glasses and get on the Shed Geek wagon. Yeah, there you go, man. Now you're looking more like me. There you go.
I knew you was wearing your backwards hat, so I was
that's right. I gotta
bring it today.
It's the backwards hat. The backwards hat for me is like the glasses for you. It's just a brand. Everybody knows me as the guy who wears a backwards hat. I think we talked about that recently, right? I'm the guy who wears the backward hat and tells it like it is. I'm not always everybody's favorite guy, but I can tell you, you'll always get the truth from me, even when it hurts.
Why does this fitted hat make me look like I'm I don't know.
I don't know. I've been wearing hats for years, and I can tell you what happened. I don't know, 3-4 years ago. Yeah, see, the fitted hats now are more frontward facing. But for years, nobody wore adjustable hats backwards. It wasn't a thing. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if it was the Morgan Wallen thing, or I'm sure there was somebody somewhere that's a lot more hip than me. But all of a sudden, I wasn't able to get the flex fits the way I used to. I used to custom order them and all that. And now all of the really nice hats, like this one's Huey. I wear Huey hats a lot. Little shout out to Huey, but I do like Huey a lot. They tend to fit my big framed head. I wear like a 7 3/4, almost an 8.
Oh, you're like me.
Fitted hat.
I got a big noggin, so
that's right.
It takes a big hat. I tell people I don't know what all's in there to have such a big head. I don't feel like
not much up here. Not much here. I was I don't know if it was a blessing or a curse, but I was cursed with this large dome, and it takes a lot to cover it up. This hat here I really like. But yeah, man, I think the hat suits you, right? We're getting casual Shed Geek today.
Yeah, so, no suspenders, no bow tie, no formality here, but no, I like that. Well, I'm in the new office, I mean, I don't even have my filter on, you could, if
that's how we like it.
Well, if I could take you guys around and almost show you what we've done, it's kind of been fun and amazing what we've done in our new office, and even thinking about the future and like where it's going, and Shed Geek and like all the affiliates and brands and just the cool. Sometimes it's easy to forget. You've been doing this for 5 years, and it's easy to forget that you don't stop and look back and see what you've been trying to build, because you just been very intentional about
Yeah.
What was the buzzword a couple years ago? Grinding. You just been grinding,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
just been hitting it. You just been I've been mimicking my father, which told me, you're just going to have to work hard in life. Like you can outwork
That's
a
right.
lot of people. You can work harder than a lot of people, and you'll get more gain than even people who are more talented than you. And if you can just outwork them, and that's the way I operated in sports. I wasn't always the best player on the field or on the court, but I was one of the hardest workers.
Yep.
Always. So it's just kind of the approach I've taken to business. And I don't know, I'm hitting 45 this year, Jared. I am a grandfather now, almost two times. I will be by the end of this year. And I do think that you start to slow down, whether you want to or not. Your body starts to pitch up.
Yeah.
You just slow down a little bit. So,
I
but
have a I have a problem smelling the roses. You know what I mean? I do
yeah,
not stop very often. You know that about me. I
yeah,
run full speed ahead. Like this week, I'm getting ready. I mean, if I could show you my whiteboard right now. So Shannon and I have been trying to fit in content time, and I'm looking at about 7 names of people I got to call. I've got a community picnic, so I don't know. I don't know that I've shared this with you guys, but I'm on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce where I live, and I'm on the park board, and I'm really heavily involved with local community. I think that that's important. And for me, this is a stressful week, anyways, because our community picnics this weekend. So I'm wearing multiple hats, including podcaster. I'm wearing business owner hat with Dayton Barns and Five Rivers Pole Barns because we're obviously a big supporter of that community picnic. We have a shed on site. We really look to sell, probably 3 or 4 buildings we'll look to sell, whether it be wood sheds, pole barns, or steel buildings. But I'm also trying to help organize this community event. And this year I was tasked with putting together the community picnic book, which needed a complete overhaul. If anybody knows me, they know I'm not going to settle for anything that's not absolutely perfect. So I've been working back and forth with printers, picking up 3,000 picnic books, shooting podcast episodes for you guys, trying to handle business things. And I'll tell you, man, grinding's the word. Grinding is definitely the word, but you can't teach people to grind, Shannon. I've
yeah.
realized that it is something that we were born with. It was inherited from whoever your parents are, whoever their parents were. You cannot teach somebody to grind, no matter how hard you try.
I remember asking the question. What was it? I think I did a sales presentation at one of Gary's first shows, Gary Reichert
Yep.
of Shield Wall Media. I think it was the Garage Shed Carport Builder show that I was doing an educational segment, and I posed the question: are good salespeople taught, or good salespeople born that way? They just have a knack. And I always love to have those discussions because um, like what makes a person hungry. Looking at the
Yep.
Shed Sales Professionals page, I was watching a comment from Peter Biller, Making Sales Simple, one of the hosts of the Shed Sales Summit at this year's expo, and he said, he said, um, why do sales not get closed? And he was talking about sheds, but that could be very relatable to steel buildings
Yep.
too. If you're selling carports and steel structures, red iron, whatever you're doing, post frame,
Yep.
what is the reason why things don't get sold? And there was 50 comments on there that was just amazing to break down the thought process of different people. If you're not grinding, you're not working, you're not, I've heard some people say I've taken a plus salesperson, put them in a C minus location, and they outsold a plus location
Yep.
and a C minus salesperson. So,
We
it
realize
just
that in real time here at
yeah,
Dayton Barnes. I mean, we can figure that out in real time. I mean, you might have the greatest salesman in the world, but if you stick him on a poor shed lot or a poor location to sell, that guy's not going to thrive. It takes more than just the right person. It takes the right location. It takes the right product. So, people, price, and product, the 3 P's of, success in business, at least from a sales perspective, right? You mentioned Gary, and I figured I'd take the time to share with you guys. We had Gary on the podcast. I think when this episode launches, this will be the follow-up episode. So I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to be at the Construction Roll Forming Show October 1 and 2 this year at the Dayton Convention Center. They're in Dayton, so super close to us, not too far from you, Shannon. Check out the guys over at Roll Forming Magazine, Shield Wall Media. You guys got a real taste of what Gary's all about last week. He's another guy that tells it like it is, will absolutely give you the truth, even when it hurts. But I can tell you, we are super duper looking forward to being at the Construction Roll Forming Show at the Dayton Convention Center, October 1 and 2. Check them out. I think it's $50 to register. They give the door gate back to a charity of their choice. So come check us out. We'll be there. The Steel Kings. Shannon, I think, is going to drop in for a visit. Might even get a visit from Joel, some of our other friends, the guys over at VersaBend. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Let me segue to our sponsors for a few minutes. I know, Shannon, this isn't going to bother you any. But the guys over at VersaBend, check out the guys over at VersaBend. They have what you need to get started. If you're already started, they got the tool that's going to take you forward. I can tell you it bends 2-inch, 2 1/4, 2.5-inch square tubing. Plus it does that 2x3 rectangular, all in 3 precise bends. You don't need any tools to switch up. It's just going to give you speed, accuracy, and less downtime. $19,500, no tax if you're outside the state of South Carolina. Average shipping is about $600. So you're about $20,000 into this project. Check them out at csccarport.supply or call 864-446-3645. Make sure to tell Wendell the Steel King sent you. So, Shannon, we were talking about sales. We were talking about people. We were talking about locations. You and I have been working on a project now for the last, I guess, couple of months now since you added me as administrator. But I think one thing that we definitely want to talk about today is the steel structures sales professionals page on Facebook. You want to give us a little bit of an overview on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been through a few different hands now. As you guys know, Facebook kind of controls the algorithm of how content is administered and who it's administered to. I mean, there's so many friends that I don't see their content regularly and things like that. Well, with a business page, the one thing you find immediately is Facebook's made it pretty clear that they want to make money. If they're going to allow you to use their platform to grow your business, why aren't they seeing any benefit from it? Which is actually very reasonable. They built the platform, but they've made it kind of clear that for businesses they want money, right? They want those meta ads. They want so it's funny because with a private page, with a closed page, the algorithm seems to be much more free flowing. And typically, I administer a couple of pages in the industry. We were given the Shed Sales Professionals page when it was 5 or 6 years old, and had about it might have been 5 or 6 years old at the time, maybe not. Whatever it was, it had 500 people on it, and we've I've actively grown that. I've actively worked to get that in that algorithm, in that space where we now get 30 to 40 people a month attempting to get onto the page, some that are shed sellers, some that aren't. Well, now there's 5,000 people on there or more. I don't even know. I haven't looked in a long time. There's a lot of good content generated on there. It's free content. It's closed to just the members who want to be on there. All they've got to do is tell us that what company they work for and that they're in the shed industry. We just need some minimal proof. Well, we had a page, that I had kept for Shed Geek, and then we moved that into rolled it into a couple different page titles, and finally I've landed on, hey, there needs to be a steel structures sales page for professional steel structure sellers, just like there is for shed sellers. But I've noticed that it just hasn't taken off quite as well. It hasn't quite caught the algorithm for Facebook to really start to push it out. It's kind of operating very similar to that of a business page at the moment. But I don't know, as you can see, there's probably 1,000 members on there. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like 1,300 members. And what I'll tell you, so I want to show you guys a little bit. So those of you that are watching along, the steel structure sales professionals page is laid out almost identical in format to the Shed Sales Professionals page, which looks like this. What I like about the Shed Sales Professionals page is if you guys haven't been on there, check it out. Send Shannon an invite. He'll review and get you in there. But like this morning, I just watched an interview with my friend Charles from the Shed Business Journal. There's all kinds of content here that is relevant to what we do every day, which is selling structures, whether it be steel buildings, wood sheds, or otherwise. I like what Shannon's really helped create here, which is a social media network basically around sheds. So you can see what's possible with interaction, not just from Shannon, not just from Jared, but from everybody. You know, we're not going to mute anybody. We're not going to keep anything hidden. We're going to talk about the logistics of things inside and outside the industry, good, bad, and different. I've seen a lot of information on different suppliers, lots of different information about vendors and things like that. So you jump back to the steel structure sales professionals page, kind of the same vibe. We got this Shed Business Journal sharing this morning, that's where I actually saw Charles's interview, which if you guys don't know Charles, he's a great guy in the industry. But I can tell you, we want you guys to be proactive and part of this community with us. Shannon's given me an opportunity to become an administrator here, and same with Eric. And we want to interact with you guys. I think a lot of times, Shannon, in the steel side, people tend to pull the curtain back so tight. They don't want anybody to know what they're doing. And again, I'm full transparency. I'll help out anybody. I am not opposed to walking through what makes me successful selling steel buildings and wood sheds. You know, I am really a proponent of rising tide raises all boats. If we can all do better in the industry, we've talked about this, and maybe this is the topic we need to hit again today, is if we can stay in the pocket and make the whole industry better as a whole, we will all do better for it. Right now, specifically with steel, it's a tough sale, man.
Are you ready to elevate your shed business to new heights? Your pathway to success just got a whole lot smoother with ShedSuite's innovative marketing platform. At ShedSuite, we like to think we understand the shed industry at least a little bit. And over the last 7 years, we've been building awesome software for shed businesses. We focus first on building easy-to-use software to help you create and track orders, like the point of sale and after the sale order fulfillment. And now we're excited to announce our full-feature CRM. All things pre-sale, like prospecting and follow-up, all to empower your shed company to market better and sell more efficiently. Our platform empowers you with a marketing toolkit designed to amplify your online presence, engage your audience, and drive sales like never before. Enjoy the ease of conversion tracking, email marketing, centralized lead communication, and so much more. Oh, and guess what? It even comes with an iPhone and an Android app. With ShedSuite's marketing platform, crafting and deploying effective marketing campaigns is a breeze. The advanced reporting functionality allows your team to analyze real-time conversion data so you can make informed decisions and watch your business flourish. There's no better time than now to join the community of shed business owners who are scaling up with ShedSuite. It's time to turn your marketing efforts into real trackable results. Visit shedsuite.com/marketing to get pricing, explore the features, and book a demo. ShedSuite is committed to building top quality software to empower your shed business to thrive.
It's tough because, as somebody, a friend reminded me the other day, you're talking about people's livelihood, their money, their potential. You and I both know you've got shade tree mechanics out there, and then you've got top notch, certified trained mechanics that see their trade as a lifestyle, right? And I think it's the same way in any business that you're in. If you've ever worked anywhere in your life, you know that you have employees that go above and beyond, and you have employees that just do the minimal, and they're content with that. And I would say it this way. I think you always are going to see that in the shed industry and in the steel industry also. The cool thing that we're doing is we're kind of defining these industries separately with a podcast, with a private Facebook page where you can be involved and share ideas, learn from others. I've heard a lot of people say I don't comment on the pages much, but I learn a lot from the other things that people say. It's kind of like when you ask someone to be on a podcast, they say, well, I don't have nothing to offer, but I love listening. And I'm like, well, trust me, give other people something to listen to also, and come on and share your story, because you may be surprised. You don't have to give away a competitive advantage. But I do think that the shed industry and the carport, and that's the thing, we could just say carport, like we could call this carport sales professionals, but it really encompasses more than just carports, right?
Yeah.
When you say steel structures, it's very, it can become very broad. I mean, even the term shed can become very broad,
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, Simon Sinek, find your why. What's your motivation? What's your reason, Jared, at the end of the day? Like, why do you wake up and do what you do every day? Why do you do a podcast? Why do you host a steel, podcast? Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Family is the key. But if you're gonna be involved and you're gonna do your best for your family, you're gonna want to be the best at your trade. And
that's right.
Simon Sinek says that about Apple. Right. He said, they just happen to be in the computer business, but you could put them in any other industry and the mindset wouldn't change. Like, hey, this is who we're going to be if we were selling pizzas, or if we were selling tractors, or if we were selling cars. We just happen to be selling computers. That's our trade. That's
Apple,
what we do.
Apple's probably the best example you can give in this scenario, because they were a company that basically launched the personal computer revolution, right? And continued to skyrocket through the early 80s. And then when they lost their focus of what made their business work, that's when they started to fall on hard times. Mm-hmm. They've always been the highest price. None of that is new. They're still the highest price, but now they're the number one in pretty much every category. I know their market share for desktop usage is not as high as PC with Windows and stuff like that. But you always get a quality product. You get what you pay for, and they're not afraid to charge you a premium for that good product. And I think that's where Shannon and I specifically share this trait. Why are we constantly running to the bottom to pick up nickels when we can continue on the trajectory we're on and pick up dollars or $5 or $20? We're always reaching for nickels. And that's what kills me about steel sales in general from just an overhead perspective. I just had one happen. I just talked about it this morning to one of my sales reps here. Got a call from an independent dealer. I think it was in New Mexico or Arizona. Sold a building to a customer. I'm upside down. I had to refund their money, but I'm trying to do them a favor and really help them out here. We don't sell. Steel buildings are not meant right out of the rip to be lived in. Anybody who's out there selling steel, like 5-on-center, square tube buildings to live in without some serious thought, is just doing themselves a disservice. They're doing their customers a disservice. And what we do is then we breed our competition to do the same thing that we're doing. And now we have bred an industry that doesn't know what they're doing, selling things for, you can if you want to buy a 5-on-center building and live in it. Is it going to be the same as a 16-inch on center stud framed home? No, it's not. And that's the kind of stuff that aggravates me to death, is now I have to re-educate. Not that I'm not willing to, right, Shannon? I'm willing to. I'm willing to educate. But now that customer who bought that building, New Mexico, Arizona, wherever it was, if we can't correct the problem, they've got a sour taste in their mouth for the whole industry. And that was one person in one state. It took 10 seconds to make that mistake. And for me, if we can't come together as a community and say, we're going to go away from, I want a barn dominium, so I'm going to sell you a $50,000 steel building that you're not going to be able to finish out anyways, it's going to be a problem. And I can't, it blows me away that people are advertising and selling that way. I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. I've worked with guys that sold sheds, and I've heard it out of their mouth, and it kind of set uneasy with me, because I've been in business with them. And it's like, hey man, just sell it. Let the company deal with the fallout. Hey, just sell it. Let the rent-own company deal with the fallout. We're not in rent to own. They are. They're taking the risk. It's their
That's
problem.
right.
And I'm thinking, well, it's technically true, but then like everybody's fighting over the pie,
That's
and
right.
they're trying to take more share of the pie, more market share. And I'm over here thinking, we're short sighted on this. Let's make a bigger pie. Like,
That's right.
to me, the
We
collaborative efforts can make for a bigger market.
we
And I'm not saying you won't fall on hard times, Jared, but like we got to get there first. We got to
we
like
we
become that first.
we often run in our minds where, from a dealer perspective, any average dealer, even myself included, is constantly worried about what they're going to make on commission. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number one question. What am I going to make if I sell your product? Okay. What I would argue back to somebody who is saying just what you said, don't care about it, the RTO company can deal with it. Don't care about it, my manufacturer can deal with it. How much more could they afford to pay if they didn't have to take care of your mistakes?
Mm.
How much more could you make? How much more leverage would you have if you called your manufacturer and you were their number one dealer? Oh man, we never have issues out of so-and-so. They're our best dealer. They're our number one dealer.
And
And
when you
that's
say
what,
best dealer, you don't even just mean most money. It's
not
they're
just
our best
sales.
problem solver.
That's right. That's
They're our
exactly
best
right.
communicator. We have the least
Yep.
amount of problems on an install with this
That's
because
exactly
they
right.
because they take what they call. I used to work for a casino. I worked for them for 10 years, and I've shared this before. It's the first casino, one of the first casinos in the Midwest. It was opened by Merv Griffith, the owner, previous owner of Wheel of Fortune. And they started here in a poor community where we were at in the Midwest. And they put it on the boat because they had to have it over water. Um, and the one thing I learned whenever I went to work for them is like you usually walk out empty handed at the casino. So you're paying for an experience. It's much like a vacation.
Yeah.
Like you
Yep.
pay for the experience because, you may bring back a few souvenirs, but your memories are really where your money went and,
Yep.
and what you got to do. We went jet skiing, hey, that was fun, whatever, but that's, you don't take that home with you. It's not a tangible asset that you can get back with you. So what the casino taught me in terms of customer service was this term called own it. And this is something that they were very serious about, very, very serious about. And that was for you, the employee, to treat the business as though you were an owner.
Yep.
Hey, could you tell me where the reward center is? It's right down that way. You'll see it. No, that's not the answer. It's yes, ma'am. Just walk this way with me. I'll make sure to hand you off. Hey, what was your name? Okay, Miss Jones. Hey, here's Tony at the reward center, and Tony,
Yep.
because that's what an owner would do. And
Yep.
and I hear sometimes the mentality, the pushback against that, Jared, is like, well, they don't pay me enough to do that, or whatever. And I'm thinking, man, it's I've seen this in sheds happen so much where just shotgun approach, try to bring on 30 new lots. You find about 2 or 3 diamonds in the rough,
Yep.
and you're going to stick with those dealers because they end up being $3 million a year dealers because they just care. They just care about who they are, who they serve. And then you have the guys that just always bring in the bottom, don't they? They're just always, I'm going to do the minimum. If you don't like it, come get your buildings, and I think it just comes down to an educational thing. Like we need to know who's going to be representing us in our company. And
I think manufacturers are responsible here too. This isn't just a dealer problem. This is manufacturing led, because just like what you said, I'm going to go sign up 30 and I'm going to care about 3. And I think that that's where the dealer manufacturer relationship has to become closer and tighter knit. From the steel side, what I see is companies like mine, where, Eric and I have been successful doing this for a long time. We've sold for multiple manufacturers over the last 5-6 years. We have really dove into focusing on a handful of manufacturers. Shannon, some of these guys.
Yeah.
And more often than not, and I'm just going to say it like it is, they don't put their money where their mouth is. You do what you say you're going to do. And Shannon knows, Shannon's witnessed it. He's been here. He can justify for me that what I'm doing, I can feel good about. I feel really good about what I'm doing here at Dayton Barnes. I feel good about what I'm doing on a personal level here in this shop with these guys and these gals working hard every day to do what it is that we really have found a passion doing, which is selling premium structures to people who are in need of premium structures. But what I find a lot is, and I can totally understand if you're a dealer listening to me right now and you're saying, well, Jared, it's one thing when you're selling $10-15 million a year and blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing that. And I'm struggling just to sell $500,000 or $300,000 a year. And I'm just trying to feed my family and maybe add a couple additional revenue streams to my shed lot. What I will tell you is if you find the right manufacturer and you stick with them and have their back when they need it and go back and forth with each other, you will often find resolution with that. And I know that that's cliche, and you're sitting there thinking, man, Jared, again, I'm only selling $300,000 worth of buildings. But I can tell you, work with the right manufacturers. That's number one. Okay. We need to, as a community, stop supporting people who are driving our sales price to the bottom. You want to know why you don't make money selling steel buildings? Because you're selling cheap steel buildings. You want to know why you're getting bad reviews? Because you're selling cheap steel buildings. What a lot of people don't understand about cheap steel buildings is Shannon and I could move to North Carolina tomorrow. We could decide, you know what? We're done podcasting. We're done selling. We're going to start making metal buildings. And there is a Jimmy John Jack on every corner selling scrap and selling tube scrap and sheeting scrap. We could start our own metal building company. Then all of a sudden, we'd be the cheapest metal manufacturer in town. And you know what? We'd probably make us several $100,000 in a year. And then you know what happens after that? That cheap metal building company, it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's gone.
I saw a
Oof.
Facebook post the other day of somebody said they were relating it to shed hauling is what they were doing, if I remember correctly. But it was someone who said something along the lines of getting some electrical work done. Mm-hmm. And a Facebook post. Had a customer contact me today. He was showing the conversation. And it said, how much for this job? And they told him their price. And they said the other guy, did it for this much last time. And they said, well, call him then. And they said, I would, but he's not in business anymore.
That's right.
And it was like, I mean, that tells the whole story just right there,
That happens all the time. Now, I can tell you, okay, so you're sitting there, you're Mr. Shed Lot, you're in one shed lot, you might sell metal buildings, maybe you don't. I'm sure you get contacted once or twice a year from a metal company that says, hey, will you sell metal buildings for us? Think about that from my perspective. Everybody and their brother reaches out to me and says, hey, I started a metal building company. I'd like you to sell for me. Okay, well, I need some pictures of what projects that you've done with proof that you've done them. I need any kind of confirming information, right? I need workers' comp information. I need your LLC information or your business information. We dig deep on the manufacturers we work with. The companies out there, Eagle, American Steel, Star Buildings and Carports, all of these reliable metal buildings. These conglomerates, right, that cover multiple states and have been in business for years and years, those are the kind of businesses you want to work with. And what you find more often than not, and I forgot Carolina Carports because I love Carolina Carports, but what I can tell you from a overhead perspective is they've been doing it a lot longer than you have. They've been doing it a lot longer than me. The companies that pop up oftentimes do not come ready to prepare. They don't come ready to give you the building that you desire. So what's funny is I just named 4 or 5 companies. And if I priced a 30 by 50 by 14 building with 2 10 by 10 roll-up doors, I would bet you the price would be anywhere from $1,000 to the maximum $2,000 difference between all 5 of those companies. So you determine where you want to work with, you determine lead time, you determine overall quality, how you feel about the company. If a company comes in and they're $7,000 cheaper than those 5 companies, I'm immediately got red flags going off in my mind. My eyeballs pop out of my head, because if those 5 companies are at a certain price and somebody is 7,000, I mean, I'm using this as an example because I get it all the time. It takes me about 30 seconds to figure out that their business is registered to a chicken yard in the middle of Timbuktu. They don't have a facility. They're buying used material. They might have no Google reviews. They might have no track record of being in business. And just because some person is selling their product doesn't mean it's worth even what they want for it. And you have to come ready to combat that information with information. Hey, I'm working with companies that have been in business for 20 plus years. If you want a warranty on this thing, if you want to make sure it doesn't blow away on a windstorm, if you want to make sure you got engineered master blueprints with it, take it up with me. I'll help you out. I'll give you the spread on everybody that I've got, and I'll let you make a decision, right? And that's where you have to be. In this day and age, man, it is a race to the bottom. And it's a
I think
race that
it's
I don't want to run anymore, quite
well,
honestly.
I think
It's tiring.
no one wants to win it. It happens in rent to own, which is a very familiar thing in the shed world.
Yep.
When you talk about dealer premiums, like the
Yep.
concern starts to become. I mean, like I'm literally hearing people giving away 10% dealer premiums anymore, and like I'm wondering, when is it going to get to the point to where I mean, there's really only two plays there, right? It's like soak up all the business and then once you've got it, change the dealer premiums back,
Yeah.
or just be willing to divide the margins down so low because, like, really, if you're an American company of any capacity, and it doesn't matter if you're selling socks, sheds, or lollipops, right? Like your margin outside of tech usually falls less than 30% on your P&L at the end of the day
Yep.
in terms of profit. Like you might make
Yep.
$1 million, but you only bring home usually max $300,000 out of that by the
Yep.
time you get rid of P&L, right?
Hey, I'm Clark Paquette, one of the founders of Calculate Business Services. If you're in the portable storage building industry, you already know how much is going on behind the scenes. Managing lots, tracking sales, keeping up with cash flow, and staying on top of your books. It's a lot. That's where we come in. At Calculate, we specialize in helping businesses like yours with bookkeeping, accounting, tax prep, business support, and even fractional C-level services, like having a part-time CFO or COO on your team without the full-time price tag. We know this industry, and we understand its unique challenges. Our team helps you stay organized, make smarter decisions, and keep your business running smoothly so you can focus on building and selling. Whether you're just starting out or scaling fast, we've got the tools, the team, and the experience to help you grow. And to get the conversation started, we're offering a free 30-minute consultation. No pressure, just real help. Visit calculatellc.com and click Contact Us to schedule your session today. Let's grow your business together.
So like
Yep.
30% gross profit's a pretty typical, thing for any company in America, unless you're in tech, where you're seeing
Yep.
these, 10 times, 20 times, evaluations, depending on how important it is, how adaptable it is. With AI, we're seeing like some massive ridiculous now. And like, you're just beating people to the punch if you're seeing those 10 and 20x returns on the sale of a business. But most people don't. That's an investment. That's not even just a purchase. Like you have to have big dollars, and you usually start running into private equity groups really quick whenever you start getting into that, and you start looking at venture VC guys and like
I think that might be the scariest frontier that we navigate in our industry as a whole, is the onset of AI, the onset of, just commercially, man, I don't even know how to really word it, but to me it is commercial conglomerization of our industry as we know it. It would not take very long for the right person to come in and completely overhaul the industry.
You're gonna
And they would be,
see more,
I mean,
Jared. You're gonna see more.
Yep.
I think right now. I think a $5 to $15 million a year company has the ability to take on a $60 to $80 million a year company through the correct investment in their digital assets. Because it's I'm gonna beat this horse to death, but like brick and mortar is not going away, but it's not the only way anymore. And what's happening is those who are not embracing the technology, which by the way falls in line with every other retail market. I want to make sure to stress this point very heavily. This isn't a new idea in the world. It may be a new idea in the shed and carport world because you haven't embraced it. But I promise there's some sharp guys and gals out here that are doing some of this already. I mean, I'm impressed by some of the things that we see in here. But what I'm getting at is like you have the ability to take it over, but you limit yourself. You limit yourself by saying, you know, my in-laws used to do this. I love them. My in-laws are phenomenal people. They're excellent. But I remember when, you know, they would talk about having a PC in their home and they were like, why would anyone want a computer in their home? And they didn't understand it well, so they typically insulted it, right? Then they got a computer, right? And then the internet came along and it was like, no way, no. And then they insulted it. Now we go over there and I mean, my mother-in-law's on her computer online telling me about her load speed, you know, and she's like understanding it and she's speaking more intelligently about it. Now it's AI. And guess what? You would think after the last two, they would embrace AI maybe a little more, but instead they're like, no, why would anybody want that? And then in 10 years, they're going to be speaking differently about it. And I find that the industry does that because like, this is going to sound a little harsh, but I've done it. So I'm not making any accusations on anyone that I haven't done myself, but we simply insult what we don't understand.
Yeah.
We insult it because we don't understand it. And I'm seeing companies that have the potential to make huge strides right now. And I'm seeing behind the scenes, some of these large companies are recognizing, oh, we need to do that to take market share. And that's just what's going to happen, guys. They're not going to tell you they're doing it. They're not going to. That's why everyone's so private. That's why everyone's so protective, is because they don't want you to know. Because by the time that they're doing it, they want to be able to keep that first mover's advantage as long as they can.
That's right.
So they're embracing these ideas and this new technology and different things. And I know from your perspective, it's hard to like jump into that and be like, well, let's go invest a bunch of money into this unproven territory. And it's like, it's only unproven in the shed world, though. It doesn't, and the steel world. It doesn't mean it's unproven in cars or other.
And I would argue there are people that are doing it. If you're waiting, you're missing it out right now. I mean, Shannon deals with them a lot more than I do.
To at least educate yourself, Jared. If you don't spend a dollar, if you don't spend a dollar with me or anyone else, no problem. No problem. But educate yourself. Do not be adverse to learning about it and asking questions. Where you go wrong is when you like demonize these things.
Shut the wall down. Don't ever
shut the wall
down.
down. At least start to learn, because the more educated you become, the more intelligently you can speak on what will or won't work.
I can't agree with that enough. I cannot agree with that enough, because from our perspective, we're always looking a couple of steps ahead of where we're at currently. We're looking at things like AI, and you know, I'm a big guy in general, right? Big in figure, but big in stature too, as far as I'm big on in-house. Shannon's been here. Shannon knows I have an in-house lead generator. I don't outsource anything. I don't like AI by rule. I like it in I like it in some capacities, right? I use chat, you know, GPT, you know, open source AI a lot with some marketing pieces, a lot of different verbiage. I've written ad scripts with it. A lot of the ad scripts you hear me read are ones that Chat GPT put together for me. And then I go in and I put my 2 cents on it, right? I'll take out a lot of the fluff and just make it straightforward and straight ahead. But that streamlines me. It doesn't just replace me. And I think that's where people get really scared about AI. It's a tool that can make a person like me even better. It's when you try to replace somebody, that's where I start to get.
Can I go on a soapbox? I'll go I'll get on a soapbox for a minute. And yeah, absolutely, you're right. You know, like I use AI for my descriptions on the show, right? Like AI creates the description that you guys read for today's episode. Well, I used to sit and write those, and I felt like I was a decent writer, you know, but I started getting compliments all of a sudden when we moved over to AI. And nonetheless, I got a compliment from a good Amish friend of mine who said, man, the description that you're reading is like amazing. You're writing it. It's amazing. It makes me want to listen to the show even more than I've ever wanted to. What did you do? Did you take a writing class? And I said, no, AI's doing that. They're just able to put in the words better. They're not able to replace me.
That's right.
You know, and that's the thing about AI and technology in general. And when I say I get on a soapbox, I use about one. I'm about to alienate your audience. Get ready. You know, about once a year, I get on and make maybe like a political or social post on Facebook, just simply
Sure.
for the intentionality of not to argue, but to challenge thought. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Socrates challenged thought, and I believe that
Yeah.
thought should be challenged. Matter of fact, there's nothing better than challenging your own thought and your religious convictions and things like that, because they've made me stronger in what I believe and a better speaker on these things that I believe,
Yep.
because I've been through the fire, right?
That's right.
You know, I always like to talk about things like self checkout. That's a perfect example. It's a easy thing to insult immediately. You know, self checkout's going to replace. So you know who uses self checkout the most? Walmart. And guess
Yeah.
who people feel that they just have the right to be able to tell a business what to do. They believe they just have the right to be able to tell business how they should do it. The best way you tell Walmart how to do things is with your pocketbook, not with your social media post. If you don't like it, don't go, right? But the
Yep.
reality is things evolve.
Yep.
Walmart, who uses the most self checkouts in the world, also hires the most people in America. The most
Yep.
people in America. So I find it hard to justify the argument that they're costing people their jobs when they hire the most people out of any employer in the world. They have to resituate based off the advent of technology. A good example is you pump your own gas now. So when
Yep.
you say I won't check out my own groceries because I don't work here, but why do you pump your own gas? Because there was a time where not anything was self-service; it was full service, and there was an attendant who always pumped your fuel. And guess what? Things change. They change.
That's
But
right.
you know, think about the invent you know, of click and pull now,
Yeah.
Jared. So like now they've
Yep.
changed those checkers into just
Yep.
a different job description, but they still hire. They still
That's
hire
right.
more than anybody in America, right?
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
not that they're costing jobs. That's a simple argument. You know, you got to think a little bit deeper. And that's what technology is doing. So I like to use self checkout. Right? Some days I love the interpersonal relationship, and I go and I'm not in a hurry, so I go talk. I go through the line. I talk to the old lady. How are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's an older gentleman, how are you today, sir? You know, I love that interaction. When I'm in a hurry, I can probably get it done quicker. So beep beep beep, and I need to get out the
Yeah.
door, right? You know, it's things change, and they're changing in sales.
Yeah.
No matter what industry you're in.
I have to try to bring the audience in a hair, right? Because you said you're taking them away. I would say that God encourages us to ask for his wisdom when we lack it, right? He calls upon us to turn to him in prayer. And, you know, whether or not you're religious doesn't much matter to Shannon or I. But I can tell you, I know a lot of folks out there that think a lot like Shannon and I that listen to this podcast. Doubt is something God gives us so that he can provide that reassurance when we lack it. It brings us closer to him if we allow it to, right?
The
And
obstacle's the way, Jared. The
that's right.
obstacle's the way,
That's
brother.
right.
Like if
That's right.
you're not called to an easy life with
That's
absolutely
right.
no problems, like
That's
God's
exactly
never
right.
said, you know, God said, cast your burdens on me.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
because he wants to prove the sovereignty. It's like
That's it.
Philip
Yep.
Yancey in the book Prayers Doesn't Make a Difference. He said, how can you pray for a true thankful prayer over your meal when you've got a cupboard full of groceries? But when
That's
you don't
right.
know when your next meal's coming from, you're very thankful for the meal
That's
that
right.
you just received, aren't you? So, you
That's
know,
right.
like I heard one pastor say it this way: God doesn't give you the bench, he gives you the tree. Like there's a certain amount of work that's required of us to do, and we're not called to have everything easy all the time. And I've been guilty of expecting that as a Christian, that my life's just going to be easy all the time. And it's been harder. It's actually been far harder as a Christian.
That's how I
think
look
it was non-Christian.
It's ironic. That's kind of how I look at chat, right? I had to overcome my own personal objections with AI. And I did that slowly over time, right? I thought about it and I thought about it and I watched tutorial videos. I watched people give me their opinions on it. I watched actually how to use chat. And really, if you utilize it as it's meant to be utilized, which is a tool, it is not meant to be utilized as a replacement, not at least not yet. Nothing that we're talking about, anybody listening to this podcast is not on the level where they can build artificial intelligence to run and operate their business on a massive scale. Okay. And if you are, thank you for listening. Reach out to me personally, Jared at thesteelkings.com. I'd be happy to talk to you more. But I can tell you, utilizing the tools that are put in front of you for the benefit of your business or personal development or whatever that case is, never going to hurt you. Never going to hurt you to try something new. It is never going to hurt you. Get up on the horse, fall off, do it 100 times, and maybe after 101, maybe you're riding down the trail and you're on the horse and you're having a great time. But if you don't ever try and you quit,
Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs. Everybody's
Yep.
seen him on wherever HGTV. I'm not sure where it was, but Dirty Jobs. He said AI is not coming for your trade.
Yep.
And that's the beauty. If you build sheds, if you build carports, if you are involved in some labor intensive way, it's probably not taking over. I'm not saying there's not some automations to some extent in the building process, because we are seeing some of that happen. But it's going to be hard to imagine that that's going to replace a worker completely. AI is actually coming after your coders. It's coming after your marketers. It's coming after your social media people, like Jonas Troyer. I think it was him. I may get these names mixed up, but he said AI is not going to replace your job, but someone who understands AI will. And I thought that was a brilliant comment, because I was like, it's not that it's like coming for you directly, or there's this mischievous thing under. Look, it's like a gun. It's like money. It's like a knife. It's like a bomb. Anything that we invent can be misused and mishandled. I mean, it's still the heart at the end of the day. And I think you need good people who understand it. It's why we have cybersecurity. Some people use the internet for bad things, but that doesn't mean the internet's bad as a whole. That means that some people, use it for the wrong reasons. At the end of the day, it's a heart issue, which is why, we talk about this on the podcast all the time. Like one of our main goals is to spread the Great Commission, the gospel, and talk about Jesus Christ, not because we feel like we have the answers, but because we feel like we know who does, and then you can get into this whole other topic about religion and your faith and how it affects you and how you believe and what you believe and how you carry yourself daily. And I'm like, look, man, I'm not perfect. I never claimed to be. I'm just a guy who's a willing vessel. We try to use that in our guidance of our work. We're sitting here getting notifications off a comment I just made on one of the pages this morning, just out of nowhere. And I got my phone's blowing up, right? Even while we're sitting here talking about that very comment. And I'm like, this is what happens when you dare to take a stand. You can stay in the background, but even saying something like Jesus on the podcast has gotten advertisers that have told me they don't really want to come on because of my religious affiliation. And I'm like, you know what? Good. I don't care how big you are in this industry, because I believe God's bigger, right? So it doesn't matter to me that you choose not to come on. There are some things that I just won't draw the line on, and I'll say, well, I'm all about being willing, but if willing means to lose who I am completely to satisfy you, I can't.
If I'm willing on my side, to be open, you should be willing to be open on your side. And if we can agree to disagree on things, that's fine. My biggest argument with anybody that wants to argue is that I don't want to argue. I could care less about it. It's a waste of my time. What I can tell you, Shannon, is it has been a big time today. We hit a bunch of topics. We're a little bit over on time. So I'm going to be the one that delivers the bad news that we will be back at you with another episode of the Steel Kings podcast. However, in the meantime, I will share this. Get out in your communities and do something special. Do something for somebody else this week. Be a good neighbor, be a good friend, be a good teammate to somebody in your life. Mentor somebody. Maybe you need mentoring. Reach out and find that mentoring, because I can tell you, Shannon and I both have been on the other side of success. And not that I'm on the side of success currently. Maybe I'm on the opposite side too. But I can tell you, find a neighbor, a friend, someone. Be charitable with your time and your love and your attention. What I can tell you is I really appreciate our friends at J Money. I really want to thank them for giving us the opportunity to do this podcast with Shannon. I want to thank you too, man. Joel is a great guy. He's a builder at heart and a banker by trade. He's helping businesses like yours grow with fast, easy financing that your customers can actually afford. Learn more at jmoneyllc.com, and we'll see you next time with another episode of Steel Kings Podcast. I'm Jared, and over there is Shannon, and we'll check you out later. Check out the Shed Geek podcast on Wednesdays too. All right. And we will talk at you soon. Peace out, guys.
Before you go, the J Money team wants to thank you for listening to today's Steel Kings podcast. Remember, money is king, and if you need a financing option on your portable wood sheds or steel buildings, we are here to help. Just check us out at jmoneyllc.com for more information, and don't forget to catch the next episode of the Steel Kings podcast, and have a great day.